Hello to our viewers across New Zealand, Australia and also the Philippines as we track a typhoon there early next week. But before we get into that, let's get into the usual New Zealand-Australia forecast as we go into the weekend. And considering the time of year we're in, the forecast is actually quite settled. Although New Zealand does have a bit of a southerly and a bit of windy weather on the way, and Saturday's looking a bit wet in the North Island. Not too wet, but a little bit. We'll focus on that in a second, but first of all, let's take a look at the general picture going on. And this is lunchtime Saturday, and you can see this large area of high pressure rolling through. So when you think about how big Australia is, it's 4,000 kilometres from west to east. This high stretches from the very left-hand side of your screen all the way to almost New Zealand. So several thousand kilometres across. So very, very big. That's going to keep the weather very dry in this area, although the southerlies are still brushing Tasmania and parts of Victoria, and then that moves straight over to New Zealand's South Island. So let's go into New Zealand's weather now as we go into Saturday at lunchtime. The blue line represents that colder southerly coming in. So Christchurch up to about Wellington and Fielding, up into Palmerston North, and then later on Hastings, Napier, Wairoa, Gisborne, you'll all get that colder southerly. It's not majorly cold, but compared to some of the weather we've had lately, it will be down a bit. And there is a period of rain or showers moving through. Showers more likely over on the western side, patchy rain on this side. Showers last less than 30 minutes. Rain usually goes for longer than 30 minutes and covers a larger area, just if you're wondering. And it's fairly dry and calm down here. That means there could be a frost. So this is the frost map for overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning, and you can see there is a chance of some frost down in the South Island. You can see the below zero maps at weatherwatch.co.nz. Let's get into Sunday, and there's a small low between Brisbane and Sydney, which on Saturday brings in a few showers. On Sunday, it continues to bring a few showers in, but most of it is offshore, and it's heading towards New Zealand. In the South Island of New Zealand, we've got a bit of a showery day on the western side as those westerlies come on and blow back through again, but that will push up temperatures on the eastern side. No more frosts because it'll be a bit too windy and mild. The North Island, a bit cloudy on the western side, but the eastern side you clear up after a wet Saturday. So I hope you got all that. Don't forget you can just look at our local forecast for more information. Now as we go into next week, that low in the Tasman is one to keep an eye on. It is likely to move into the North Island, but remember, high pressure just there and also high pressure out over Australia means that this system sort of trapped a wee bit by these high pressure belts, and lows don't like high pressure. So even though it is building up to bring in some wet weather, we believe, it may not deliver a lot. By Tuesday, there's a cold front moving into Adelaide, Melbourne and Hobart. That will fall apart as it reaches New Zealand. It's pretty weak. We've got the low out here in the Tasman. That's driving down humid subtropical airflows. So next week certainly does kick off fairly mild across the country. You'll be noticing that as these airflows come on through. And our last map here shows that wet weather moving through. But at the same time, it is also falling apart around the country. So there won't be a huge amount if you live in the eastern side, for example, and even the very north may not get massive totals. You can see those rainfall totals at both weatherwatch.co.nz and over at ruralweather.co.nz. And the last thing, there is another storm down here in the Southern Ocean, just likely to bring another surge of windy, showery weather into this southeastern part of Australia, and then that will move on over to New Zealand later next week with another cooler change next week from today. Okay, let's now get into the tropics up to the Philippines. So we've got this potential super typhoon very early in the season coming straight on in. There's Manila. Now this is where it's likely to be at lunchtime on Sunday, or actually Sunday morning if you're in the Philippines. By the time you go to Monday, that's when it's likely to be at its deepest and its closest. Now this is close enough to bring in weather warnings across the Philippines, but it's still far enough offshore that the most damaging part, that's where it's likely to stay. With these maps, one of the good things about them, showing just the isobars only, the lines around it, see how many lines there are as you go into the middle, it becomes a white blob. That's the area where the most damage is in these storms. So while it's windy all around the outer edges here and damaging winds like the usual storms that we get from time to time, the middle part here is what causes the catastrophic damage. So it's good to see on Monday that it is still holding off this way, and by Tuesday it's starting to go northwards, and by Wednesday even further to the north there. So it sort of comes in, stops, and goes north. That's what the current thinking is, but it is so close that a lot of people are going to have to pay attention to this one, and hopefully it remains offshore. We'll bring you another update via the weatherwatch.co.nz website over the weekend, and obviously on Monday in our next weather video we'll take another closer look at that. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you again on Monday.